I'm joined now by Ali Zaidi. He is the White House's National Climate Advisor. Ali, it's nice to see you, not on the North Lawn, but I guess by satellite. I'll see you back at the White House on another occasion to do this conversation in person. But how does the White House, how do you balance prevention of climate change's effects with the sort of mitigation of what we are already experiencing?
Well, good to be with you. And, we are seeing those visuals, the gut-wrenching effects of climate change, not a line in a scientific manual, but a reality in communities all across the country. And the fact of the matter is, where we are in the crisis means we've got to do both things at the same time. We've got to help harden our infrastructure, raise our roads and bridges, improve the resilience of our communities, be partners in the response, and then at the same time attack the root cause of climate change, which we know is putting greenhouse gas emissions, burning fossil fuels, putting that into the atmosphere and continuing to drive global temperatures. We've got to do both things, and that's what the president has done. A historic investment in resilience, $50 billion in his infrastructure law, and the world's largest investment in tackling greenhouse gas emissions.
I want to ask you about that, the Inflation Reduction Act, in just a moment. But I know you're a policy guy, not a politics guy. But in the simplest of terms here, what can this administration, what can the Biden administration do to address climate change in such a way that a future administration, if former President Trump returns to office, cannot undo? As you know, the former president has a very different view of climate change. He's described it as a hoax in the past. He said that windmills can cause cancer. Of course, an unfounded claim. There is no evidence of that. How do you how do you institutionalize some of these things?
Well, one of the most profound ways you can do it is by building the infrastructure we need to tackle the climate crisis. There are 185,000 charging stations that line our roads and highways, new offshore wind farms where the steel is going in the water, 80,000 farms that have signed up to take on climate-smart agriculture practices, over 100 factories and counting manufacturing clean products in America. No one's going to drive around and rip the steel out of the ground and take us backwards, regardless of the policies in Washington. The big question is, how quickly do we move forward? How do we accelerate the pace of progress? And, I think that comes down to leadership, and it comes down to policy direction.
So I want to ask you about that, because every time I'm at the White House, officials will say to me, this is the year of implementation. We're going to see a lot of this construction taking place. I want to hit you specifically on the topic of these EV charging stations right now. The Transportation Secretary, Pete Buttigieg, has said that we need about 500,000, 500,000 of these stations by 2030. That means we got to pick up the pace a ton right now. How many charging stations have been built from the money that was directed to this effort from the IRA so far?
Yeah, the Inflation Reduction Act provides the private sector with tax incentives, with loans and grants to get these charging infrastructure built. We now have 185,000 chargers built. That's almost double the number on our roads and highways relative to when the president took office. And
so I just want to be very,
500,
Ali, just so I make sure I get it right. So are those chargers all that you're referring to being built from the IRA? How many are being built from the funds directed by the IRA?
So almost all of those chargers are claiming tax credits provided through President Biden's Inflation Reduction Act. There are also credits being provided to manufacture those technologies here in the United States. We've got about 40 factories that are manufacturing chargers or part of that supply chain. That's happening because of the president's investment agenda. And by the way, thanks to his leadership, we've got the entire auto sector now sprinting to establish U.S. leadership on delivering choices to consumers rather than locking us out of leadership in this next generation of transportation technologies, where, frankly, before the president took office, China was absolutely the leader. Today, the U.S. has repositioned to lead once again.
And I guess the last question would be to a lot of Americans who are dismissive of this as a top issue. I think only 5% of voters in a recent NBC News poll say that climate change is the most important issue facing this country right now. What do you say to those Americans who are not convinced that this should be a top priority, especially when countries like China, they fear, and India, based on some evidence, are not pursuing the same path that the United States is?
Well, look, folks I talk to are concerned about the air that their kids breathe, and they're glad that Joe Biden is investing in school buses that run on electric, not on diesel. Folks I talk to are concerned about where the jobs are going to be in the future. They're glad that tens of thousands of jobs are being created in the clean energy economy. They're concerned about energy costs, and they're glad that Joe Biden's providing tax credits and rebates to reduce home energy bills and utility bills. So, look, maybe the conversation at the kitchen table isn't about climate science, but it's about topics that relate back to whether the U.S. is stepping up to win the future and lead on clean energy, and the president's policies are helping us do that.
Ali Zaidi, always a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for making time to speak to me today.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.